But we're really looking forward to hearing from all of you, and it's not going to be very much about me speaking at all. But I thought what we would do, well, you know, one of Roger's favorite poets was Robinson Jeffers. I imagine some of you already know that, don't you? Maybe, maybe not. Well, Robinson Jeffers said that beauty is the signature of God. And that always impressed Rob, who was deep down a very spiritual guy. And so I think he would be pleased if we began our time of sharing today with a short poem of Jeffers as a sort of invocation. I admired the beauty when I was human. Now I am part of that beauty. I wander in the air, being mostly gas and water, and flow in the ocean, touch you and Asia at the same moment, have a hand in the sunrises and the glow of this grass. I left the light precipitate of ashes to earth for a love token. As you know, Roger did love beauty, and we're going to be sharing some of those moments. I'm sure some of you have seen his wonderful photographs, and he just had an eye. And I want to start by taking a few brief moments for acknowledgments and introductions, and to lay out how this is going to happen today. First of all, thanks to Joe. You folks have got to be so pleased to have this member of your mutual. And he's going to be playing throughout the service at different places, because we want to give people breaks so that they can gather their thoughts. And I'll be speaking a little bit, and then Joe might play something, and then we'll take a microphone out here where you can come and speak into the mic with your stories. And that's kind of how it's going to go. I should probably introduce myself. I'm Roger's nephew, Wr'near Wilcox. And like my cousin Curtis, who could not be here today because he is in Alaska, had a doctor's appointment yesterday and could not make it. And he really regrets not being here, but he's sending his granddaughter. She's just a little late. Curtis, like me, had the same middle name, and it was Roger. Okay. And I know there may be some people here that are older than me today, but I don't think any of you could possibly have known Roger as long as I did. Because I met him right near the end of World War II, when he had come back from China, and my mother and father presented him with the information that I had been born and given a second name of Roger. You see, Roger was my dad's younger brother by 10 years. And imagine Cassie will fill in some of those blanks, but basically in Roger's parents' family, there were 4 brothers, all separated by 5 years, and then one sister who was 2 years younger than my dad, who was the oldest, so she was 8 years older than Roger. Actually, since we have a little more time here, my real name isn't Wr'near. Okay. And Cassie has arrived, and Sam is going to go.
You're gonna drop that bomb and leave us hanging?
Can I what?
You're gonna drop that bomb and leave us hanging?
What's your real name?
Come on in, Cassie.
I'm on my way, I'm on my way.
I'm going to just give a real short one of it, because that could take the whole time if I told you why my name went from what I was born with, which was Warren, to Wr'near. And Warren was my mother's father's name, and my dad got as his middle name his father's name, Leroy. And so, you know, these things happen that way in families. You get middle names sometimes of ancestors, and that's really a good thing. And Cassie, welcome.
Thank you.
Meet Cassie. And you know, we're right at the point, Cassie, where I was going to have you read your eulogy. All right, would you like to come up here and sit down and speak it into here so they can hear you?
Sure.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Cassandra Rose Wilcox, Kurt's daughter, one of his daughters. My sister Roxanne lives in Oregon. And I've been coming here my whole life to here, Norton Park. You know, my sister and I thought that these rocks were like mountains. We loved coming here. So, and I still do. And now I have a 2.5-year-old who loves coming here. He loves these rocks too. Okay. So I'm glad that some biographical information that obviously I'm not that privy to because I came after a lot of that stuff. But this is what I wrote as kind of a longer obituary for him. So Roger was born on April 18th, 1921 in Manchester, California. I actually live in Cazadero, California, which is just south of Manchester. So my husband's always saying, "You're California, you go way back. Your great grandpa," and you know, he was a redwood logger. Yeah, I actually read something my grandpa wrote about when the 1908 earthquake happened. My great grandpa Leroy was he was bringing some oxen from out east by the Sierras, and he dropped everything and went to San Francisco to help with the effort. So we go way back around here. And he had 4 brothers and a sister, and then later a foster brother. He remembered his parents as principled, hardworking, resilient, and with absolute integrity. All traits that he inherited. He grew up in Healdsburg. He experienced a Depression-era childhood where he developed the determination, resourcefulness, and interest in the natural world that would last his entire life. He contributed money to his family by picking prunes, apples, grapes, and hops. And after graduating high school in 1938, he went to Santa Rosa Junior College, where he studied engineering, and he met my grandma, Jane Schreiber. He met her at a Christmas party, or they were decorating something at the junior college. He thought he was going to marry someone else, but then he met her. And they didn't get married right away, though. He was active in a lot of clubs, sports. He was student body president. A campus newspaper article from that time described him as the lad with the curly hair who makes the wheels go round in student body affairs, known to everyone, which I know is true here too. He later transferred to Caltech, where he studied meteorology. His life was forever altered when Pearl Harbor was attacked in 1941. And he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Corps. And that's another story my grandpa would tell about. He wasn't sure what to enlist in. And it was kind of chance that he had some friends were going to the Navy, some friends Army. So he liked to talk about all the little decisions that ended up meaning everything to him in his life. So he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Corps. At age 21, he started as a second lieutenant due to his education in meteorological training. During his 4 years and 7 months of active service, he spent 2.5 years in Kunming, China, becoming the staff weather officer for the 14th Air Force under General Chennault. His talent for precision and technical skills were of critical use in Kunming, where the dangerous geography made flying extremely reliant on accurate weather prediction. Among his many incredible feats during that time was the discovery of the jet stream phenomenon, when he and his colleagues realized why airplanes were making their way over the Himalayan hump consistently in one direction but having trouble on the return. His experiences during his service, including a 62-day sail home from Calcutta to San Pedro Harbor in 1945, were the stuff of legends. When remembering those years, he would often remark on the small decisions and chance encounters that had so often decided the path of his future and had been at times been the difference between life and death. For example, he has a story about not getting on an airplane that ended up crashing. All of his friends got on it, but he had one pilot buddy said, "Just come with me," and he was like 22 when that happened. So yeah, a lot of little decisions that are the reason why I'm here today. He remained a reserve officer for 25 years and reached the rank of lieutenant colonel. He married Jane during a brief trip back to the U.S. in 1944 in Berkeley, California. And I lived in Berkeley, California too for a while. It's where my husband and I first lived when we were married. And I didn't know they were married in Berkeley, California until, my grandpa was probably at least 100 when he was like, "Oh, we were married at a church in Berkeley." And so I immediately looked for that church. They had 2 children, my Aunt Shirley Jane Wilcox, who died in 2019, and my dad, Curtis Roger Wilcox, another family name, Roger and Jane for middle names. Thanks to the GI Bill, and my grandpa always thanked the GI Bill. Because he had wanted to go to Berkeley, but he couldn't afford it before the war. It was his dream school, but because of the GI Bill, he was able to go there. So he enrolled there after the war and studied engineering. Upon graduation in 1948, he was hired by the consulting engineering firm Brown and Caldwell as only the second engineer in the company. He worked there for 35 years while it grew to a company of thousands. In 1960, the family moved from El Cerrito to Bellevue, Washington, where he worked for Brown and Caldwell as a design engineer specializing in wastewater facilities. And he eventually became a registered professional engineer in 5 states. That's another little coincidence because my husband went to Cal Berkeley and is an engineer as well. And so he's not registered in 5 states. Unlike my grandpa. He was a very devoted husband and father. He endeavored to be involved in the interests of his children and his wife and had many hobbies of his own. He was always 100% committed and got really good at everything he did. He enjoyed salmon fishing in the Pacific, just right out here from San Francisco. He would go bird watching. When my dad was just here, we found a long list of the birds he's seen right here in Rossmoor. He loved following the stock market and golfing with my grandma Jane all over. They traveled all over the West Coast and Hawaii especially. He was especially gifted and interested in nature photography. His whole family, we all received cards every year with great photos that he'd make himself, and he'd always choose one for the occasion. And he was an expert. Well, my dad said not to use the word expert, but I think I can use expert at repairing watches and clocks. He not necessarily even liked to own them. He just liked to hunt them down, repair them, and see where they would go. So he was a talented amateur meteorologist. There was a local weather station here that would call him just to check in. And I remember one time he was like, people, they really use microclimate wrong around here. That was something, he's like, it's more of a nanoclimate when people are tired. He had all these little things that he knew because he was an expert at so many things. He was a generous philanthropist, and in later years was particularly committed to supporting cancer research in honor of his daughter Shirley. Roger joined the Seattle Mountain Rescue in 1967 after helping an injured boy while chaperoning a hike with my dad Kurt. And he wasn't particularly, I guess there was a period where Roger wasn't that active, which none of you guys would ever have known that. Because I think as of right before, when my dad was like 10 or something, he went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, you should really start walking a little bit more. And so he said he walked around one block that day, and then it became 5 blocks, and then, you know, pretty soon it was miles and swimming all the time and everything. And it was kind of because, well, he said he considered this experience helping this injured boy to be a pivotal moment in his life, because it began a lifelong commitment to physical fitness, and it's when he discovered his passion for mountaineering. He became involved in the organization's leadership, and he was an active member until 1977. He participated in many successful rescues and described those years as the busiest, most interesting, and rewarding 10 years of my life. Though his mountaineering career ended when he left Washington, he remained strict about daily exercise and credited it with his extraordinary health and vitality in older age. I remember when I was hiking with him one time here in one of these canyons, we came across a guy who was kind of struggling up the hill, and my grandpa said, "Hi, how's it going?" He said, "Oh, you'll understand when you're 85. And my grandpa was like, "I'm 96. He was just, you know, he was always so, he was extraordinarily healthy, as you all know. Roger and Jane moved here in 1977. He retired in 1983, and he spent the next years traveling and enjoying his free time with Jane. And I was thinking about it, it was like the first time he had probably ever had free time. You know, he'd been the one of the younger children of like a very hardworking family. He'd worked his way through his college, immediately went to war when he was incredibly young, came back and became a father and worked. And so 1983 must have been a great time for him. He would recall the time between retirement and Jane's death in 1996 as the best chapter of his life. After the loss of his wife, he became a committed partner to Peg Selmer for 7 years until her death in 2003. He then shared his life with Kinney York, who died in 2019. He traveled extensively with both partners, and he was a devoted, unwavering source of support and care during the end of each of their lives. He really was a committed partner. He when we would visit here, he always would go down and make sure Kinney, you know, you guys probably know Kinney, a lot of you, and he always made sure, you know, she was good every night, and whether he came back up here or not. And I'll always think of him as just the most committed partner to the partners he had. And he did like to marvel at the ineffable nature of love, because he was an engineer, you know. But he recognized that I have been a very lucky person. I have loved 3 wonderful, unique women and been loved in return. He was a born engineer who thrived on data and rationality. He kept, I mean, PG&E should call him and they could see, I'm sure they don't keep as good of records as he kept. But he was equally drawn to contemplating the mysteries of existence and the beauty of nature. He was privately spiritual and appreciated literature and poetry, connecting particularly deeply with the writing of Robinson Jeffers and the landscapes of California and the Southwest. He especially enjoyed hiking in remote areas near his home in Walnut Creek, where after Jane's death, he found solace in the presence of a red-tailed hawk he called Big Mama. In the last years of his life, his son Kurt and daughter-in-law Laura were able to spend several months at a time with him. He was also able to come up to my house in Cazadero, which was so great. Actually, Wr'near brought him to my wedding in 2019, and that was, I mean, it was so special to have him at my wedding. And we had our wedding at our house, so. He greatly enjoyed the visits and companionship of his nephew Wr'near and his wife Sherry, very important to him. And his family will be forever grateful that Roger was able to spend time with both of his young great-grandsons. I have a son and my sister has a son, age 2.5 and 4, almost 4. And they were fascinated by him and loved him. My son, every single day, he called him Pops. Every single day he says, I'm going to Pop's house. And he gets in his little red car and he's like, I'm gonna go to Pop's house. I'm like, okay, see you later. All right, bye, going to Pop's. The many incredible adventures of his life will live on through the stories they will be told.
Well, that was worth waiting for, wasn't it? Yeah. And we're going to hear so much more, and you're going to tell us some more. And I'm not going to tell too much myself. I'm trying to do this in little blurbs, like I said before, and I'm going to do one of those right now. And it kind of builds on where I left off as Cassie arrived. And I titled my thoughts today, Love, Beauty, Dreams, and Death. Okay, we covered the beauty at the invocation. She mentioned Thomas Jefferson. Not Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, Robinson Jefferson. And I was starting to tell you about my name change and the fact that I became Wr'near from Warren. And the very simple explanation for that, and I won't go into it in detail, is that one time my grandfather Warren appeared to me in a dream, and he had died when I was 13, and I think I was close to 45. And it was just kind of shocked me that he appeared to me. And to make a long story short, in working with that dream, I became in touch with the fact that I needed to change my name and make an anagram out of it. So if you take and switch the letters around in Warren, you get Wr'near, okay? So that's how that happened. But it wasn't just that dream, you see. Years earlier, around the time, just before my grandfather died, I had a dream of my Uncle Roger's mother, my grandmother Abby. She died when I was 7, and I didn't know anything about her. But I had a dream about her. And that got me to develop an interest in my own ancestry and has led to many, many discoveries that are worth knowing. And to top it off, Cassie mentioned the year 2019 when she got married. But that was an awful year. Actually, starting at the end of 2018, Roger's youngest brother, Richard, died. Not too long after that, my older sister died. And not too long after that, Kenny died. And Roger and I would find ourselves together. Sometimes I would drive him to a funeral and that sort of thing. But what was just the very hardest of all was soon after Cassie was married, Shirley, his beloved daughter, died. She had terrible cancer. And she had been unable to come down. That's why I took Roger up to Cazadero, because she had planned to do that and she just couldn't do it anymore. But we got Roger up to Seattle to see her. I took him to the airport. Curtis met him in Seattle and took him to a place where they spent a couple of days with Shirley. And a few weeks later, when he had returned, I got a call, and sure enough, Shirley had died. So I called Roger and I said, I'm gonna come over tomorrow. It's okay. So that night, it wasn't exactly a dream. Maybe you can help me out with this, Joe. Can you play the melody to that song? This is what I heard in my dream. We're going to be singing this song in a minute. So. That song was going in my head and I couldn't get it out of my head. It kept going and going and going. And I'm driving over to see Roger. And it hit me. The lyrics, come and sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu. Just remember the Red River Valley and the one who has loved you so true. And I knew as soon as I connected with those lyrics, that song was from Shirley. And so when I arrived, I told that to Roger, because we often talked about our dreams. He told me his and I told him mine. And before I could finish, he started singing it. And he said, I used to play that song for Curtis and Shirley on my guitar when they were kids. I didn't even know he played the guitar. Well, that's the end of my little story. And we're going to sing the Red River Valley, or Joe's going to sing it. And I think you got the words, don't you? And we're going to join in on that refrain, if you like. And then Joe, I think, has one other song he's going to sing before you start sharing, and you're going to explain that when it happens. Thanks, Joe.
From this valley they say you are going. I will miss your bright eyes and sweet smile. For they say you are taking the sunshine that has brightened our path for a while. Come and sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu. Just remember the Red River Valley and the one who has loved you so true. Do you think of the valley you're leaving? Oh, how lonely, how sad it will be. Do you think of the fond heart you're breaking and the grief you are causing to me? Everybody, come and sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu. And remember the Red River Valley and the one who has loved you so true. As you go to your home by the ocean, you never forget those sweet hours that we spent in the Red River Valley and the love we exchanged amid the flowers.
One more time.
Come and sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu, but remember the Red River Valley and the one who has loved you so true, and the one who has loved you so true.
Music can be so healing, can it not? And that's why Joe's presence here today means so much. And he's going to tell us about this next song, which when I heard reminded me of this same sense of loss, but appreciation. And as soon as he's done with that, Cassie's going to bring this extra microphone out here in the middle, and we're going to invite you to come up to it if you want to share a story, okay? Or you can come up here if you'd rather, all right? Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. This song's called Winter Snow. Maybe some of you have never seen it. I don't know. It's possible. But I hail from Indiana, and we've got plenty of it in the winter. And my wife is over there. Her name is Di. I know some of you know her, and she has a very traveling past and has worked and lived overseas for many years of her life, and we've spent many years apart in our 44 years of marriage. There was a period roughly 15 years ago when she was living in Africa, and I was spending a lot of time with my mom. My dad had passed on, and I was spending time with my mom in Indiana. But Di would have a chance to come home usually once a year, and usually at the holidays. And one year she came back in December, and it was one of those, we had a white Christmas, and the whole month of December was white. And she came home, but of course she was jet lagged, so she got home but almost immediately passed out from jet lag, and I just took my guitar to the living room, and she gifted me this song. It's called Winter Snow. The days are short and the nights are oh so long. Oh, I'm left with just myself, my guitar, and a book of songs. Looking out my window, the world is white. Oh, I know in these few days the world will be alright. Home. She's home. She's coming home. We'll celebrate New Year. Hello, goodbye. I wish you all the best of cheer. Though I know she won't be home for long, while she dreamt, she gifted me this song. She's home. She's got a heart that can melt the winter snow. I know this time it's gonna be hard to let her go. She's got a heart that can melt the winter snow. Oh, I know this time it's gonna be hard to let her go. Her heart can melt the winter snow. When she's gone, there's no shelter from the cold. When she's home, she fills the hole in my soul. Love is still the greatest story ever told. When she's gone, I'll cherish memories. But for now, that's far away, 'cause she's still here with me. Come the spring, I'll remember winter snow. Count the days till she returns with laughter for her Joe. Home. She's home. She's got a heart that can melt the winter snow. I know this time it's gonna be hard to let her go. She's got a heart that can melt the winter snow. Oh, I know this time it's gonna be hard to let her go. Her heart can melt the winter snow.
Thank you so much. I think you can see why, connected with the losses that Roger went through with his wives and his companions and his beloved daughter. She's home. Have to let her go. Now, all of you have experienced death there's no way out of that, okay? And every time we have an important death, someone we really love, conjures those things up. And so this is a time for you to share how you're feeling and whatever your remembrances might be. Cassie's gonna walk over there with that microphone, and you're also welcome to come up and use this one if you want. But so that we can all hear you, it probably would be nice if you would speak, unless you have a really loud voice. Who would like to go first? Good. It's probably going to be necessary to leave your seat and come up, but that's okay. You fix it. We don't have any juice there.
My name's Ian, and I was born in India. And I've had a lot of experiences in life where it's, and I'm sure you have too, ships pass in the night. And one experience might be in connection with Roger. So in 1944, I was 11 years old, and a friend and I rode our bicycles across town to a base that had just been built by the U.S. Air Force for transport planes and bombers. The bombers, I think, were Hudsons, and the transport planes were Dakotas, DC-3s. And the American airmen there showed us around the Dakota, and when we finished, they put us in the Jeep with the bikes and took us to our home. And in town, there were a lot of American airmen, and you'd see them at the station with leather jackets on with the Chinese nationalist flag painted on the back and some Chinese symbols on the front, so that if they were shot down, they would be recognized as on their side. And it is quite possible that at some stage in 1944, in December of 1944, Roger might have gone right through that base on the way to at least one base he told me about when we were chatting in his unit, which was on the Brahmaputra River, way over in eastern India, which now may be some other country like Bangladesh or
Pakistan, I think.
no, eastern India. He would be near the Burma border, and he had been at that base in 1944. So it was kind of interesting that we might have passed and not known.
Ships in the night.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Ian, for sharing that. Cassie's going to take it. Who would like to go next? Don't be shy. Yes, right over here. Are you able to?
Oh, right, let me see.
Here. Oh, you got it. Good.
Oh, please.
Okay, super.
Oh, should I move closer? Okay, we can do that. That's not too bad. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Beth Gannon, and my memories of Roger are as unique as has been described today. One of them is he was on the board for many years, and I was with him, and there was no building here that he didn't love and know. And he would tell us about it all the time, whether we wanted to hear about it or not. So, I mean, I remember that. He was our building maintenance person. There was no meeting that he was never late for. He was always on time, ready with the statistics, ready to say, watch the budget. And that was an important part of him. And the other part, I always think of him as walking up ptarmigan with a stick in his hand, ready to, go up that hill. There was no obstacle that was never too much in the way. But the one evening I remember is the night that Mutual 29 came together at our mutual dinner at the Dollar Clubhouse, and we honored Roger. And why we chose to do that, I think it's because he was retiring, maybe from the committee or something, I can't remember. But we went all out. We had cheerleaders for Roger. Roger, that's our guy. He can't do it, no one can. And we had flags up to honor him. We had the obituary, not the obituary, but everything about him. And we were all so impressed with who he was and the simplicity of how he presented himself. And it was a fun night. And I remember it fondly because what is the way that you sum up somebody's life? You sum it up by everybody in the mutual that knew him, loved him, and wanted to say thank you. And I think it's very touching that here we are again tonight saying thank you, Roger, for everything. Your footprint here is large in Mutual 29.
Thank you so much.
He was always changing a light bulb.
Oh, yes. Oh, the light bulbs. Oh, with his buddy. Yes.
And with Roger, you only needed one person to change it, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
And it saved the mutual money.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Who's gonna go next? Don't be shy.
I got it. Thank you.
Please, Richard.
Hello. Hello. Ships passing in the night. Look at you when I tell you this. Roger was 3 years older than my father. My father graduated from Berkeley in '48 as an engineer. Not on the GI plan, though. My father's worked for the city of San Francisco, and his job was designing wastewater plants. So I probably connected with Roger because he reminded me of my father. And meticulous. I understand now what I'm reading in these old notes that Kurt gave me. The dollar parties you used to have on the annual parties, Roger kept track of what you drank and how much. Just to let you know, it's all written down, so he would be able to buy enough for the following year. I didn't know him when he was hiking the hills at 96 or being strong and everything. I had to watch him through his declining years, and I was comfortable with that because I had just done that with my father and my mother. And I would watch him. He was walking around the neighborhood unaided when I first met him, looking down a hole, and then he moved to a cane and then a walker. But he was always out. I don't think he ever missed a day. He would be out walking. Yes. He liked to see the dog, and he always had something to say. He wouldn't hear what she said back. He didn't like wearing his hearing aids. But he was a great person, and a lot of his notes have actually helped me and the maintenance committee keep the buildings up and running. So thank you.
You remind me that I forgot to put my hearing aid in. Roger and I used to sit across the dining room table from each other, yelling at each other so we could each hear each other. We got used to it, it was okay.
And that wasn't until, he heard very well until not too long ago, and that was part of his, he was hiking in the hills, hearing perfectly, walking everywhere, until he was so old that I think it didn't occur to him that it could ever be any different.
Yes. I
And
think
that
it
was
might have
why.
had partly due to that concussion too when he got double vision. Yeah. Anyone else like to go next? Yes, Judy has something to read here. Right.
I will always remember Roger's 100th birthday party. We had brought JoJo, and darn if the dog didn't make a beeline to Roger. You see, there was a piece of chocolate cake on Roger's walker, and in one quick movement, JoJo swallowed that piece of cake. Roger had the biggest laugh, and JoJo survived eating chocolate.
Thank you so much. Great. Come on up.
I would bring it. Okay, here I come.
Hi.
Am I on? Yes. My name's Roberta, and I was a very young 71 when I moved in here. And my 3 neighbors were all at least 20 years older than I was. It was a big surprise. I didn't expect that. Lorna McCarthy passed away first, and then my beautiful Melba Cave just last November, and now Roger. And gosh, we all loved Roger. Oh no, that's the age we live in. Someone, and I suspect it was Wr'near, gave Roger a subscription to Fruit, the Fruit of the Month Club, and Roger got the most beautiful fruit I've ever tasted, and he'd come down and say, "Oh, would you like a pear?" You betcha I like a pear. They were those like Harry and David ones that you just relish. And so every month I'd get a new fruit. And he loved pineapple, but he couldn't eat it all by the time the pineapple went bad. So he'd cut the pineapple in half, and he'd ask Melba if she'd like half, or me if I'd like half, and we all enjoyed Roger's pineapple. Roger's walker. I have Roger's walker. I'm so proud. And I took it for a walk yesterday, and my daughter had said, "Lift the seat up." So I walked around the park, and I came back here, and I was tired. I lifted up that seat, and here were all these paper wrappers inside, and a box of Altoids. And you know, he left me one, so I ate it right then. We miss him.
Thank you so much.
I think my son is gonna visit you for that walker because he's pretty obsessed with that. And that's my sister Roxana gave him those fruit.
Oh.
Yeah, she would send him the
We
boxes of
enjoyed it.
fruit. And I remember the first time my husband wrapped up like 4 uncooked stalks of asparagus with a rubber band, and I was like, "Oh my God, maybe you don't marry your dad, you marry your grandpa." Wow, or all engineers are like, I don't know.
I'm going to insert a small story in here, and then we're going to give you one more opportunity before we're done to share. So think of things you want to say, because there's still time for that. But this is just a short thing, but it kind of follows on what I said before. And this was during the time when Roger and I went up to Cassie's place in Casadena for the wedding. And on the way, I don't know if it was on the way to or on the way back, but we got to talking, and Roger told me that someone had told him that you should think of your life as it being in chapters, okay? And that's pretty profound. And so, you know, we took him home, and then the time came when he fell and had a concussion. And during that period of time, I spent quite a bit of time here off and on, staying with him until they finally got someone to come in regularly. And I would ask Roger a question about what something was like. And he kind of, you know, he could get pretty grumpy. But he'd get up and he'd walk into his bedroom and he'd come back with a notebook. And I didn't know what he was doing, but what he was doing was finding the answer to my question, because he'd filled up 4 notebooks full of little essays. He'd gone to take this class with Kenny in Montclair on stories of your life. And he left 61 essays that are the source of much of what you've heard here today, okay? And I said, Roger, you really should get this. Well, he couldn't figure out how to get it digitally. So I took it upon myself, and this I say to you, not out of pride, but because I know how much you love him. And if you would like to see these essays, to even have them on your computer, there are enough people here that have my email address, and I will send you all 61 of his essays, all right? Complete with 12 pages photographs, all right? One of those that's, you saw it already, those of you who saw the video, was his statement on love, and it's very short. Roger could write the most pithy little things that were just profound. It doesn't have to be long to be profound. He said, I think that love is a force in the universe, sort of like gravity. Scientists don't really know what gravity is, but they can measure it and calculate its effects. That's something to ponder. And as I was listening to Joe's songs, there was a song with gravity in it. And it's kind of a fun song. And so Joe's going to share that, and as soon as that's done, you get your chance again. So be thinking.
Over the edge, waters fall, the work of gravity, that's all. Everything up comes down, the weight of the world, round and round. You start up high and end up low. You start out fast and wind up slow. Sooner or later you hit the wall. Over the edge, waters fall. Mountains crumble to the sea. Ashes, ashes, you and me. The young grow old and beauty fades away. Things fall apart and things fall down. You can't be stopped or turned around. And everybody knows. Over the edge, waters fall. Have you ever seen a grown man crawl? The spring in his step, it comes unwound. The smile of youth turns upside down. Soon you will learn what you don't know. Better just to go along with the flow. What happens to one happens to all. Over the edge, waters fall. It happens to one, happens to all. Over the edge.
All right, who has another story to tell us? A memory? Anyone?
I can tell you.
Okay. This is my wife, Sherry.
Hi, everybody. 2 quick stories about Roger. First of all, when I was dating Wr'near, he talked a lot about his Uncle Roger and how Uncle Roger was a birder. And I was pretending to be a birder myself. And I have some wonderful books. And I would make sure, I was living in Colorado at the time, so it was possible to do a lot of hiking, and I'd take one of my bird books with me and record the bird I saw, the date, you know, all of the information. So I was really excited to get to meet this Roger Wilcox. And I took my bird book with me to that meeting and was so excited to show him all the birds I'd seen and where in Colorado. And he looked at that book and he kind of threw it back at me and he said, "That's a mess, young woman." And you know, I didn't fully understand that. You know, he was teasing me. But when I understood it was when he's living here and we're married and we're coming to visit Roger or to be with him. And I went in his kitchen to do the dishes. It was time to put the silverware away. So I opened the silverware drawer and he said, "Be sure to put the spoons with the spoons." And I could see him sitting at the table looking at me, and he had this twinkle in his eye. And that silverware drawer could have been photographed for a magazine. It was perfect. The knives were all facing the same way, and they would, some of them, like the spoons got turned upside down, but they were all upside down and in a stack. I decided he's truly an engineer. And he loved that moment. He was sitting there at the table with this twinkle in his eye and a great big grin.
You don't have a story, Sam? Well, tell us one. You were one of Roger's favorite people.
Go on. I'm counting on you.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Roger. Ooh. Roger and I became friends when I moved in here, and that was probably 6 years ago. I didn't see too much of him at first. And then he'd give me a hard time about where I was going and what I was doing. Like some of y'all do. And then towards the end, it became like our relationship changed. I know my favorite memory is he would call me sometimes in the middle of the night, and he didn't understand how come nobody gave him dinner. Poor man. He would get his days and his nights confused. Right? So he would call me in the middle of the night. "Where's my dinner?" "Roger, it's 2 o'clock in the morning." "No, it's not." "Yeah, it is." Those were always fun conversations. What else? Y'all put me on the spot.
I apologize for that, but I want to tell you something about this woman. There were many times, but remember one in particular when I, you know, Roger he had fallen and couldn't get a hold of him. You know, nobody was answering the phone, and so I called her, and she took her phone upstairs, went in the door, and found him. Okay, and that's just the way she was. She was a saint as far as I'm concerned, and Roger. Really appreciate it. He probably didn't let you know enough, but okay. You don't like to be called a saint, do you?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
We don't want to cut out anyone that has something they would like to share. Yes.
I can add a little bit more.
Okay, Ian.
Roger was frugal. And one day he called me over and he said, the washing machine. I should get up. He said the washing machine is kaput. So I went to an appliance company in Concord and said, look, I'm not buying anything myself, but I got a neighbor who's 100 years old and he's looking for a new washing machine. And he doesn't want to pay a lot for it. And the woman who was taking care of me, I think it was Friedman's or something like that. She was very good. And she understood. I said, look, he's a veteran. I was trying to do everything I could to bring the price down. And she took me along and showed me all the really fancy models with all sorts of controls on. I said, no, he wouldn't want to know what the hell to do with all that. Just give me the basic washing machine. So she pointed one out, and I think it was less than $500. And I said, well, I can't buy it, but I'll tell you what, I'll have him call you because I think that's exactly what he needs. So I came back and I told Roger. He sat there and it was like, I don't know about $500. But it didn't take him long to decide he had to have a washing machine. And he had them install it and take away the old one, which I think coming in and installing it and taking away the other one was $50. It was a bargain. So he was very happy with that.
He was frugal. He was a child with depression.
I'll just have one more little. I think the only time I ever fibbed to my grandpa was, I was about like 25, I think. I lived in San Francisco, and I came here with my boyfriend at the time, and my grandpa served himself and my boyfriend a glass of beer, and he saved just a little and said, Cassie, would you like to try it? And I said, sure. And so he poured a little bit and kind of made a little, this is beer for Cassie. And I think I led him to believe that was the first time I ever had a beer. Maybe he knew.
I'd like to know how many of you knew my Aunt Jane? Were any of you around when she died in 1996? Some of you. No? Okay. Well, it was a long time ago. And I'll just recommend a book. Cassie made mention of it earlier about the hawk that he used to court on his walks that he called Big Mama. And he would walk around, what's the name of that canyon where you filmed your video? Hunsacker? Yeah. Yes. He was all over this place, and he found this hawk. And he thought she was, this is all in the book, okay, in his essays. He figured out that she was a female, and pretty soon he met her husband and her son, Junior. Okay, he gave them all names. And this hawk would talk to him. He'd be on this walk all alone, and this hawk they would talk back and forth. And then my Aunt Jane got really sick. And one day she was in the apartment, in the unit, and Roger had been out there, and that red-tailed hawk had followed him all the way, from tree to tree, all the way here. And he was so excited he went and he got Aunt Jane to come out and see Big Mama, as he called her. When we break up here today, the last thing that Joe's going to play you is called Flight of the Hawk. It's on a YouTube. If you guys are into YouTube, go look it up. It's a beautiful piece, and there's a picture of a red-tailed hawk up here on Hunsaker Canyon, okay? But we're gonna have one more song before that, and this is to, well, this is for me. I asked Joe to play this last song, which is called Find the Yeti in You, and I just love it. And what, when I first heard it, it was like, well, what in the world is he talking about? Because I knew a Yeti was like the abominable snowman, right? I mean, find the Yeti in you, you know, and I got to thinking about it, you know. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, metaphorically, symbolically, Roger was a Yeti. And so I found myself riding around the car playing this song and singing, Find the Roger in You. So, Joe, give it to us.
Great. And if I may just say something, you know, Roger and I probably only exchanged a handful of words in the whole 6.5 years that I lived here. But I saw him every day because, like him, I'm out there hiking every day. And I'd like to think in some small way, carrying on for him by hiking out there and changing light bulbs. We walked a path over the flow in search of something true. What we might find, we could not know. In wilderness a clue. Among the rocks where we did go, these words came into view. Somebody wrote there in the snow, find the Yeti in you. And the snowfall called to all, find the Yeti in you. And the earth growled, the wind howled, find the Yeti in you. And the waves hit shore, the mountain roared, find the Yeti in you. And the waterfall let forth the call, find the Roger in you. This other world, so cold and bare, has remade us anew. We venture here where we did not dare, wild dreams left to pursue. We carry this no matter where, gives us strength to pull on through. Heaven and earth, they do declare, find the Yeti in you. And the snowfall called to all, find the Yeti in you. And the earth growled, the winds howled, find the Yeti in you. And the waves hit shore, the mountain roared, find the Yeti in you. and the waterfall let forth a call. Find the eddying view and the frigid sea. Let forth a plea. Find the Roger in you.
Could we end on a more beautiful note? Perhaps with hearing the flight of the hawk as we go our separate ways, or if you like, there's a few pictures in the back. Look at it if you like. And I just want to say one more thing to you. I've been with Roger walking these grounds many times, and he stopped and talked to many of you. I don't know your names. Like I was telling someone earlier, he said, I don't know everybody's names, but I know the dogs' names. I'm going to say, when you run into someone in your walks, if you're thinking about Roger, share it with that person, okay? Because that's how we continue to keep alive. The dreams come to us and remind us, but we can remind each other. And you were going to say something back there. Someone raised their hand. Sam, you had something to say?
Oh, no, that's me. I know the dogs.
Okay. All right. Flight of the hawk.